And welcome to Coffee with Pastor John. This is MCC Briefing, and we are enjoying another beautiful day as construction begins outside my window here. I hope the sound of drilling and cutting doesn't come in too much. We've been doing a series of interviews this week, and we just had a great interview with our Compassion team yesterday, and today we're going a little more international. We're having Rob and Elizabeth Lumkes with us, and they are going to be sharing about a project that they've been working on and something that MCC has been intimately involved with as well. Welcome, Rob and Elizabeth. Are you there?
Yes, we are. Thank you very much.
Fantastic. It's so good to have you on board and to tell us about this project. And it's a project within a project. So there's the Sean project, and then this project is a part of the Sean project. Is that correct?
Yeah, when we moved to Asia 10 years ago, we started a community called Shan Project, and then out of that has come this other project, or this other work called Inductive Bible Study Book by Book.
Inductive Bible Study Book by Book. Fantastic. So this is a publication that's going out. People can check your website on that. And it's an inductive Bible study series. And it sounds like from the title that you're working through the entire Bible. Is that what you're doing?
Yeah, Rob speaking. Yeah, we're working through every book of the Bible.
Wow.
We started with the New Testament, and we're probably about 3/4 the way written through the Old Testament in English, and just beginning to translate the Old Testament into some other languages.
What languages are you expanding into after the English?
Well, we originally started by writing it in English because we needed a template to get into the other languages. Otherwise,
Yes.
we would have written it directly in those languages. But the other languages that we're writing the material in is Burmese and Thai. And the Burmese project was the initial one that we started to do because there was literally no Bible study resources or book-by-book Bible study resources in the entire country or within 200 years of the church in Myanmar. So, yeah.
In 200 years?
Yep.
Wow.
This is Elizabeth speaking. Maybe I'll just tell the background about how this project started, if that's okay. Yeah. So we, 11 years ago, we moved to Asia. We have been working before that for the last, over 20 years now, with the Shan people in Eastern Shan State. And out of that came a request for us to start training schools because there was just a huge need for discipleship and getting people into the scriptures. And so our family moved there 11 years ago, and with a team of people, with Youth with a Mission, YWAM, and we went through the whole Bible in a year with our group of students, and we lived in community, and it was just a really special time. And there were many pastors in this convention of churches that wanted to come because they had such a hunger to know the scriptures, but they couldn't leave their church for a whole year.
No.
And some of them were in quite some of them were in quite remote areas, and so they couldn't even say it wasn't easy for them to just travel for a week or two of teaching. And so out of this desire came a request from some of the leadership in the Baptist convention they said, can you write a book for each book of the Bible so that they could study it where they are themselves? And so quite naively, we said yes. We had no idea how much work this would require. And it's been a massive project. And so it's taken 5 years for us to just finally release our first 3 booklets online. And it's been a huge group effort of over 50 people that have been involved with managing and writing and editing and translating and doing the layout. and from people all around the world. And so we're really excited to release it. It's a really big deal. And unfortunately, because of the whole COVID situation, the Burmese booklets have still not been released because our Myanmar team had to return to Myanmar. The border shut just when we were going to get the layout finalized for that. So they are coming, and they're the reason why we started this project in the first place. And so, yeah, that's where we're at 5 years down the road.
Isn't that amazing? Oh, my goodness. Yeah, I want to tell our listeners, if you want to call in, just call 867-292-3030 and enter the access code on your screen, and you can join in the conversation. We have Rob and Elizabeth Lumkes from all over, and they're back in Canada, and we're talking about their latest project, and it's so exciting. But I don't think most people just realize how huge a project this really is. I mean, goodness. Yeah, it was kind of naive when you take it on, we'll knock it off in a week, you know. This is huge.
Well, yeah, I think the visionary part of me said yes. Yeah. And I think that's often what we do, is we say yes to what the Lord wants, and he works the details out. But it's a huge project, but it's also been a real blessing in how it's kind of come together.
Oh, sure. Yes. And that's how we begin these things. We don't realize what it's going to take, but it's so much worth it, because down through the years, we've seen these kind of projects having such a legacy well beyond our lifetime, because it takes such work to do. So, wow, this is just fantastic. Amongst the many people that have been involved, we have another guest online who's also been involved, and a relative. Is that correct?
I think you might. Can you hear me, David Phillips?
Yeah. Hello. Welcome.
All right. Hello, David Phillips. I'm speaking from Toronto this morning, and I'm very glad to hear the voices of Elizabeth and Rob. They're just so glad to see the Lord working in their lives, as they've dedicated the last decade to the people in northern Thailand and eastern Shan province of Myanmar, Burma, which is what we used to know the country by. It's just a thrill to be able to let people know that God is moving in a marvelous way as the Word of God gets into people's lives. I think it's just thrilling.
Well, thank you. I think it is, too. And David, you're from the Canadian Baptist Ministries, correct? And worked...
that's correct.
Africa, Brazil, Middle East. Have I left anything out? You've gotten around.
Okay. A lot of South America and Central America. My wife Kathy and I have been privileged to be missionaries all of our lives, and in our retirement years here in Canada, in Toronto, the eastern side of Toronto, we're still on full-time mission, even now during the COVID-19.
It never ends, does it?
No.
It just goes on. And I'm past my 60 mark, and I'm wondering what retirement might look like some year if that ever happens, you know.
Well, when you get to 72, 73, which is what our ages are, actually you find yourself a little busier than before.
Isn't that the craziest thing? Oh, my goodness. My dad is... been a pastor as well. He's 95 now, and just still working hard out there the best he can when he can. So the calling is for life, isn't it? It's always out there. And David, you're related to Elizabeth, is that correct?
Yes, Elizabeth is our daughter. She was with us in Brazil and in Bolivia. Yeah. And she loves the Lord deeply. She's a great mom. And my connection with them on this phone call is because of the work that they've done to help get the work that we've done is to help get the work corrected in an edited form on this material.
And that's no small thing. I've worked with writers before, and editing is a big deal because you can even change the meaning or the intent of the writer in the editing, and there's a lot involved. So, well, good for you. So help me get a feel, Rob and Elizabeth, the extent of the other people involved in this. We've got a lot of countries involved. We've got lots of people. I don't know if you want to name everybody, but how extensive is this team around the world? Give me an idea of what that's like.
This is okay. Yeah, this is Elizabeth again.
Yeah.
Initially, we had initially the project manager was. I just want to give a shout out to Maggie Morrison from Holland. She really got it going, and she really formulated the way the booklets would. Just the process that every book would go through, and so because we are part of Youth with a Mission, YWAM. That was we primarily use those networks through the School of Biblical Studies, the SBS, which was started by Ron and Judy Smith in Montana, and so there have been many writers. I mean. Youth with a Mission in YWAM, Turner Valley here, has been a huge help. They've really thrown themselves behind this project in terms of people writing.
Rob speaking. Yeah. So in terms of like internationals, yeah, we've had people write books from Holland. We've had people write books from Nigeria and South Africa. We've had people write books from Thailand and from Myanmar. We've had people write books from South America. We've had Australians write books. We've had people in the UK involved. We've had the US, the good old US. We've had the US involved, people from the US involved. So it's Cambodia. So, on different levels, some have been writers. Some have been editors, and some have been involved in design. We have a gentleman in Holland at the moment who has given his professional skills to just help with the design layouts of each book, Ger. And he's just been a great blessing to us in donating his time, volunteering his time to do that.
It's been such a great privilege to allow Millerville Community Church to be a part of this international effort. We were just thrilled to be able to have a part of it. Our own people had a little bit to do with it, and it gave a small contribution to your work. And I just love the international and cooperative work, cross-denominational lines, all kinds of groups, and just working towards a common goal for the kingdom of God. I think that's just fantastic. This kind of thing you always hope for and dream of would happen. So
we're very thankful. We're very thankful for Millerville Community Church throughout the years, your support of us and your prayer backing. And one of the real distinctives about Millerville Community Church is your commitment to and love for the scriptures. And I think that's a value that we really carry. And I just want to maybe talk about why, there's so many resources out there already for Bible study.
Yes.
And I think a lot of people might wonder, why are you creating another one? But there are some real distinctives about inductive Bible study book by book from other resources that are out there.
Oh, very good.
So first of all, it has been created with the intent and design of helping disciple pastors in remote locations and their churches in the scriptures, in a non-English setting. And so there are some really specific ways that our material has been written. For example, when we're writing a question in English for an English audience, we might say, why did Paul write this, and what would this mean to his audience?
Yeah.
So in that question, you really have two questions, and that can get really confusing when you translate that, or if people are trying to answer one question. So in that way, like we've written, why did Paul say this? That's one question. And then the second question would be, what would this mean to his audience?
Really
so
good.
that's been, yeah, just little things like that we maybe don't think of, but that make a huge difference. So that's one distinctive. Another distinctive is that it is inductive. Like we're just letting the scriptures speak for themselves. We're not coming with a particular agenda or denominational point. We're just really want to hear what the scriptures are saying. Thirdly, they're really.
Let's not skip over that. You're going to get to thirdly in a minute, but let's. I suspect there are some people who are watching this who don't know what inductive is. What is that method that you're talking about of Bible study?
I think the easiest way to understand it is to picture like a big ear or a big mouth. So there's deductive Bible study, which was with a big mouth, and we come and we tell the scriptures what it's saying, or we pull out like one verse to build or to back up our preconceived ideas of what we want the scripture to say.
Yeah.
And that would be deductive. So inductive would be a big ear, and we approach the scriptures with a big ear because we want to humbly submit and listen and hear what the scriptures say, and allow the scriptures to shape what we think and what we believe about the Lord and how he wants us to live.
That is so cool. I've never heard it explained that way. That's awesome. Big ear, big mouth. Okay. Fantastic. Go on to 3. You were going to tell me.
Point 3 would be the distinctive of inductive Bible study book by book is that it's very much focused on how do we live in response to this, what the scriptures are saying. Not only, some people, we're not interested in necessarily how many miles there were between Jerusalem and Bethlehem, for instance. That's important, and we do focus a lot on the historical setting. But the goal of Bible study is what is the Lord saying to me? What is the Lord saying to our church? Are there things that we need to change in how we live? Or what is a practical thing that I can do this week? For example, in the book of Philemon, which is about a reconciliation between Philemon and his runaway slave, Onesimus, what does that look like in my life? Is there someone I need to reconcile with? And how do I do that? Do I write a letter? Do I make a phone call? So that's really the focus of Inductive Bible Study book by book is life-changing, life-transforming application.
Mm-hmm.
And then another distinctive is that our resources are 100% free. They can be freely downloaded off the internet. We allow photocopying. We want them to be photocopied. We want them to be broadly used. If people want a printed book, then there is, of course, the cost for printing, but
sure.
It's a nonprofit thing. Yeah. So we have some books to give away. If anybody wants to phone in, we have some free books to give away.
Oh, fantastic. So you can call in at 867-292-3030, and we can give it away to the callers. If we don't get a lot of callers now, we do have people watch this show recorded on YouTube and then watch it at a later time because they're working at this hour, a lot of them. But they can also respond in the comments section, and when you do that, we'll throw your name in a hat and draw some names out and give away a book. So
yeah, sure. For the first 6 books, or for 6 people.
Fantastic. So if you didn't get the show and called in, do leave a comment in the comments section, and we would love to hear from you, and so you can join and be a part of this adventure. It's just exciting to see this kind of work take place. And so I just want to mention it is good to have you back because you've been, I don't want to say you were trapped over there during COVID-19 overseas, but you chose to remain there rather than come home, right? And during that pandemic shutdown.
Yeah, Rob speaking. Yeah, we did. There was, I wouldn't say lots of pressure, but because things happened so quickly, there was quite a bit of fear generated around, do we stay in Asia? Do we return to Canada? We had our own Prime Minister requesting Canadians come back.
Yes.
And so we had to ask a real question. Do we come back or do we not? And so we decided to stay. and it was the best decision for us. I mean, it was a decision that we took seriously and we prayed about and asked others to pray and just said, Lord, do you want us to stay or do you want us to come back? And we think the safest place is to be in his will, and no matter what the situation is. And so we felt like that was to remain in Asia. So we did that. But strangely enough, we are back in Canada now. We were planning on coming back to Canada actually before COVID happened. And so this trip was pre-planned. They never canceled our tickets. Our flights were never delayed. And so we just decided to keep them instead of losing our tickets and to just return. And one of the big reasons we're actually returning is our kids are in the process of leaving the school they were in and actually enrolling in an online school in Canada, so that we have just a bit more flexibility as a family with traveling and continuing on with their schooling. So that was our reasoning coming back to Canada at this time.
And welcome back. And you're self-isolating, your standard quarantine time after traveling, right? So
yeah, we've had our 14 days end today.
Yeah,
we're pretty happy to. Yeah, we'll be pretty happy to get outside and enjoy a bit of that Alberta summer.
Oh yeah.
Even though it's quite a bit cooler than where we're from, it feels like a bit of a winter, actually. But we're very happy to be back in Canada and Alberta, and looking forward to being outside and connecting with people again.
It's been wet and cold here, but we'll take that over a Canadian winter any day in Alberta. So welcome back. We're glad to have you back, and I'm glad everyone's safe and came back healthy and whole. And I know a lot of plans and travel plans have been interrupted all over the world. We had ours also, but yours all worked out. Being in God's will is perfect. It's just a great place to be.
Yeah, well, the funny thing is, our tickets to return are still haven't been cancelled either. But the issues will be depending on whether borders are open or whether we can actually get back when we're supposed to go back. So we'll just kind of leave that in the Lord's hands. He took us there. He brought us back. He will take us there again at the right time.
Yeah, we're even questioning traveling down to the States to see our grandkids because of the quarantine afterwards and all that, or vice versa. But hey, this is a new world we're in. And just before we go on to go back to the precepts, I don't know, the inductive Bible study, people might be curious because we only get a certain amount kind of news. Most of it's local rather than international. Where you were, how was the impact of the pandemic scare and so on the population there? Was it a significant thing, or was it very different than here in North America?
Well, to be honest, we didn't start to feel the impact of it, even though Thailand was one of the first countries to actually have the virus because of a lot of their Chinese tourism. We didn't feel the impact of it until the West started to respond, or it started to become a real issue in the West.
Wow.
And so even as early as February, I was in eastern Myanmar, close to the Chinese border, when it was happening in Wuhan. And there was busloads of people fleeing China coming back into Myanmar. And so there was a lot of cross-border traffic and things. People were starting to see the effects of it, responding and leaving China to return home. But we didn't have a lot begin to take place where we lived until much later. So, I mean, we haven't had, in Thailand, they managed it quite well. We had a curfew, we had some periods of time of lockdown and some different, changes in terms of, going into shopping centers with temperatures and giving your phone number, and so they could track people if there was an outbreak, people wearing masks. But and a lot of restaurants and shops shut down. But in terms of how it spread through the population, we didn't see the effects of that. The hospitals weren't overrun with patients, but there were a number of cases. I think we had 50 people die, and we're up over 58 people die, and I think we had over 2,000 something cases recorded in the country.
And what's the population of the country there, roughly? Do you know?
I think around 60 million.
Wow.
But
that's a small number.
Yes. There has been huge fallout economically for people, especially for the migrant workers. So, for instance, people from Myanmar who a lot of their main source of income comes from relatives that are working in Thailand. All of those people had to return home, and the borders are closed. And so there is starting to become a real need for even just food. And pretty amazingly, the week that the border closed, our application for a new business in Myanmar was approved by the Myanmar government. So we started a new business, in alliance with several other people and organizations called Eastern Shan State Transformation Alliance, or ESTA for short. And it's really interesting because there was this huge need for personal protective equipment because the doctors and nurses in Eastern Shan State didn't have even basic things like rubber gloves. And so right when ESTA came into existence, we received some donations and we were able to purchase thousands of dollars worth of personal protective gear for doctors and nurses in Eastern Shan State. And now we are in the process of setting up some feeding programs for 2 villages where the families have no food because they've been cut off from their support.
Yeah, and this is Rob speaking, and I think some of the real fallout from this is, in Canada, we've been blessed with so many things. We understand that there's problems here, there's real problems, but the social systems that we have here and the way that our social systems have been set up to look after people is amazing.
It really is.
A lot of these other nations, even though they've made an attempt at it, do not have the social systems to support people that way. So we're helping work through the local church networks that we've had these Bible study, these relationships with over the last 20 years, to help with some food banks or set up food banks and some kind of food relief through the local church where people can come to the church and can receive food, but then when they're in a position to give back, they're going to give back to the church, and that generosity can continue through the church. So there's also some income generation initiatives with farmers and small business owners, because a lot of the small business owners, their investment is a small cart with food, and now that's totally gone. So, how do they begin to get going again? And so there's probably some small investments in small business owners starting to start, with their food carts again and things, because I think that's probably been the bigger fallout, other than the virus, has been an economic fallout.
I think that's true world over. United States, Canada, Myanmar, wherever you are, it's the economic fallout that we're all dealing with, and that's where we really feel the pain. Including here in Alberta, we've had the same thing. I'm struck with how the DNA of the church is the same around the world, because a lot of the things you're listing there, MCC is involved in too right here. That's what we do with food banks and helping people out the best we can. Oh, that's just fantastic. Well, that's it. Go ahead.
Sorry. That's a great. I think that's a really important thing you said, because I think living in Canada and then working in Asia, we've noticed that there's a mark of the church in society that often, if it wasn't there, would just be a huge vacuum. And I think that's something that we can really celebrate and really honors the Lord, and is just a testimony to the gospel. It's wonderful.
It is. It's marvelous what God does through all these experiences. We don't necessarily want hard and difficult times, but it is an opportunity for God to bring new and good things in our life and make changes that need to be made. And we certainly have felt that here, even being on this show, as part of those changes we're going through and experiencing and reaching out to the world around us. And you mentioned how Millerville is a fairly Bible-centered group, and takes the Word of God very seriously. We've started online Precepts Bible Studies, which is an inductive Bible study here, and we have people across Canada attending our online Bible studies with Beth Schmidt, and really enjoying that, and that keeps growing and expanding. And so there's a lot of great ways now that we're rediscovering things that make all this possible. And it's interesting how you're taking on this project with the Sean Project and reaching out with this book-by-book project, the Inductive Bible Study, at a time when this would have 30 years ago been, 10 times as hard to pull off, I imagine. But with tech today, it does that smooth out the process to make this work?
Yeah, like it's Rob speaking. Yes, amazing. Yes, God's timing is amazing. I'll give you an example of this. The border closed between Thailand and Myanmar, and our Burmese team had to go back into their villages. And so now, because of technology, we're working remotely. I mean, we're carrying on with the Burmese production of these books in remote villages because of cell tower networks all over Myanmar, on video calls and with email, because of the time we live in. And it's funny. I wish I could show the viewers a picture, but one of our team just sent us a picture of him working on his laptop, working on the Book of Philippians in Burmese, actually, with his car batteries all around him and solar panels, which he's using because they have no electricity in their village to charge up his computer and stuff so he can continue to work. And so
it's on our Facebook page, Inductive Bible Study Book by Book, if you want to see the photo.
Excellent. Very good. Go check that out and see that. But so they're finding creative ways to stay high tech and connected, but in difficult situations. Wow.
Absolutely. I mean, when it rains, the phone connection's not as good, so we have to pick our times when we talk. But it's amazing that we can talk to our team members on the other side of the world in remote village situations. And, technology has really helped us connect.
And that may be one of the reasons. That may be one of the reasons after the work of the church in that region has been there for quite a while, and maybe one of the reasons why a monumental work that you're taking on hasn't taken place is because they didn't have the advantages we have today to make this happen, especially as such an international effort.
Yes, definitely. I think that going forward, there's ways that we never had considered before, with, for example, like forming an online group to study through a booklet together or something like that. So that's a real benefit of this season, I think, in terms of multiplying the work. And we've really been thankful for Millerville Community Church for your evening prayers. We've listened to them from Thailand and been encouraged during this crazy season. So, we're just really thankful for the ministry of MCC for sure.
Yeah, I think it's been such a unique and special way how the church has been able to connect globally and internationally in unique ways, like you say, Pastor John, with technology that we could never have before. And I sometimes it feels like the level of cooperation and unity globally in the church at this point, is very special.
Oh, I think so. I've been telling people for years, and people don't usually believe me, but I really think we're in the golden age of the church. We often look to the past and say, oh, I wish I lived at that time, but I'm sure a lot of the apostles and believers wish they lived today to have the advantages we have and to see the spread of the church around the world. But frankly, a lot of the great things that are happening in God's church don't get publicized. And we don't want them publicized.
Well, I think that's always been the way, and so you have to dig a little deeper. But we find that usually, even where we are living, when we dig deeper, there's usually a God story or an intervention of the Lord, or someone who's worked for the Lord in that region prior. I can list a ton of just blessings within Asia and where we live that have happened because people, Christian workers or people faithfully serving the Lord, have just invested time and invested their lives as a testimony to Him.
Well, you've certainly got the ball rolling on this inductive Bible study, book by book. People can go to your website, ibsbookbybook.org, and that website address has been scrolling on our screen, so you can check that out. And there are free downloadable copies, PDF copies of completed Bible studies already. And if you're English, you can get it in English, but you also have some other translations out already.
No, we don't. No, we don't. We don't
Okay.
have any the other languages up already. Actually, next week I hope to upload the Burmese website, and the week after, or this month, maybe next month, July, I hope to have the Thai website up.
Excellent.
And hopefully, if I get my act together and continue to work hard, we can have the first book up in Burmese within a month, which will probably be Philippians in Burmese.
Now,
Another thing on the website. Oh, go ahead.
hang on to that thought, Elizabeth. I want to hear what you're going to say.
Yep.
I was just going to ask, I noticed, I think there are indications that you were looking at other languages as well. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's 100% correct. We don't personally want to take on those languages. I mean, it's taken us 5 years to get to where we are.
Yeah.
But we're very open for teams of people or people who just want to take on a language to approach us and use the material. We have some people approaching us from Malaysia, from Malay. We have some interest with Turkish and Arabic and potentially Spanish and Portuguese. We have our first group of people translating the book of Philemon into Thai, and we hope that continues to go on, and it will be the same as in Myanmar. I mean, there's more Thai Bible study resources than there are in Myanmar, but this is unique in the sense that it's book by book, and there might be topical studies and stuff, but this is book by book. And funny enough, there's something happening in Russian as we speak.
Russian? Wow.
Yeah. We had an interaction with a gentleman who somehow came across our material, and he's already translated 50% of a book. And so we've just been dialoguing with him on what the process would be to begin to release some books in Russian.
How exciting. Elizabeth, I cut you off earlier.
Oh, yeah, no. Well, just to carry on from what Rob was saying, I think there is a response from other languages because there is a real deficit in resources. You know, for us, in an English-speaking context, we have no concept of just how blessed we are, really. There's endless, almost, amount of Bible study resources or original language study resources, but for most languages around the world, there just isn't. That's just a fact. Like in Burmese, for example, there is not even a Bible atlas. If you're a Burmese speaking person and you want to look on the atlas, where's Rome and where's and these cities in the Bible, you can't find that. So that's why we're doing what we're doing, and I think that's some of the feedback that we're starting to get as we release the website. For example, the person from Malaysia, she said that she'd been looking for resources to help the indigenous people in Malaysia to do inductive Bible study, but she couldn't find anything. And so that's why she was so excited to find our resources, and she wanted to start translating them. On our website, go ahead.
I don't think people realize how important this is, that this kind of training goes on and this kind of material is there. For example, in the history of the United States, we had times in the history where there was great evangelistic movements, but they were reaching people with the gospel, but there was no follow-up, there was no getting into the Word and discipling and learning. And then out of that came some pretty crazy ideas and behavior because they weren't grounded in the Bible. And this makes all the difference in the world to have a resource like this, and that's what I'm sure there's a hunger for it.
It does, and a lot of Western English-speaking people, they just kind of are not that enthusiastic that there's another Bible study resource, and actually we've heard people say, well, we've tried the Bible, we're beyond that now. But for people who don't have resources in their own language, it's huge, and I think some of our critics have been surprised at the interest that people have and the hunger that is there to really understand the Scripture. And some of the responses from other people in other languages have been, they just say, I love this because it's exciting to me, and I get to answer the questions, and I get to have my own thoughts about the Bible.
Yes.
And
yes.
it's really powerful. Yeah.
Amen to that. We've seen that, but it's true right here in Canada. Millerville Community Church has gotten to known as a Bible-loving church that does an inductive study. And we have had people coming to our congregation from other groups where they haven't heard from the Bible in years. and they're coming to learn. And we've had several people come to the Lord who attended inductive Bible study, and then over time, as they listen and read it, consider it, they eventually make their decision to come to Christ, which is just a beautiful way to come to the Lord. So it really makes a huge difference.
It does, and we've just really seen the deficit, and I don't think we realize it because we've had such a rich history of the Scriptures and resources in the church, often in the West, that we have a lot of traditions and things that we've built up that we just kind of take for granted. Even many of our governmental systems and our social systems have come out of, ideas or Judeo-Christian kind of worldview ideas. And so living where we are, we've seen often a church form that hasn't actually had access to the Scriptures. And so you end up with some of these like really weird ideas, not just in the church, but in society. And so we think that this is not just Bible study in the spiritual realm, but as God lays out his plan for humanity and people and his idea of things or what the world looks like, which the Bible puts forward, it creates a framework and a set of values which absolutely impact the individual, the family, the community, and the nation. It's radically transforming. And so we see a lot of what we're doing as actually being nation building and an opportunity to bless the nation and even address some of the struggles that the nation have or communities have. Often, it's really interesting, often where we work in Eastern Myanmar, there's a lot of poverty around, but the poverty is not because of wealth. There's a lot of wealth. Some of the richest resourced areas in Southeast Asia in terms of mineral wealth and opportunity, but the worldview that people live in has kept them poor, where they don't ask questions, where there's not a freedom of inquiry or a freedom of creativity, which we feel like that the Bible puts forward and creates a framework where people, families, and communities can thrive.
Oh, preacher, brother. That's totally on board with you on that. Yeah, we change from the inside out. It always begins with one person, one heart, and spreads, and then before long you have whole communities and nations changing as a result of that. Well, sitting in the background during our conversation is David Phillips, Canadian Baptist Ministries, and he's listening to all this. Hi, David. Are you still with us?
Hello. I am. I've been listening to everything that's been going on.
Hey, David.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can. David, I want to ask you, you've got a long view on history and been around a while. How unique is what is taking place with this project, this book-by-book project in the inductive Bible study? From your perspective, has been out there for quite some time and around the world, is this a unique project?
I think it is a unique project. I'm impressed with the number of people that are involved, who have been involved in each step. I think maybe I could just go back to that for a minute. If we look at traditional Western Christianity at the present time, we would say, all right, a person goes to a service on a Sunday, and they might listen once, so they might have two services. And then something during the week would be, let's say, a Bible study or a prayer meeting or a choir group. And we've tended to separate our Christian life into what happens on a Sunday, and then what happens maybe once or twice during the week. Mm-hmm. We haven't emphasized so much what a father and a mother can do to help their children to grow, to talk about things. We haven't emphasized so much how people can continue to grow and get into the Bible on their own. And so when Elizabeth was talking about the big mouth and the big ear, I think that represents, it's a good metaphor to say that God has given us both a mouth and an ear. And so how, for someone to come along now in Shan State or other parts of Myanmar, other parts of Southeast Asia, and to say, here is a way that I can spend 15 minutes a day, half an hour a day. I can do this with my kids. I can help my teenagers to begin to get into the Bible. This is very significant. I think it's significant for a number of reasons. When you have a number of people who participate in the content and then the communications portion and then the application, you get, I think, a more well-rounded approach to the scriptures than if it was one person writing from his or her perspective. Mm-hmm. Now, when you look at the content, the way that things are put together is very significant. And so just looking at that word inductive, it means to then see what is to learn to see what is in the words and behind the words. So a person needs to read actually through the course of one of these booklets. They would take a book, let's say the book of Philippians. They would read that short book a number of times. The first time just to get the brief overview. And then the second time is to begin to look at the themes. And then to the third time to look at repetitive words. And then fourth time going through it and beginning to soak up what each section does. By the time they've gone through it 5 or 6 times, this is actually like water in a thirsty desert. It doesn't just fall on the sand. It doesn't just fall on the soil. It goes deep into the soil. And this is what we want for family life. This is what we want for new believers, to begin to get the perspective of God's purposes for his people throughout the centuries. Mm-hmm. And I think it's transformative. It's not just saying, all right, you need to do this. It's actually, what kind of people are we? And I believe that actually makes for a stronger church, a stronger community, a stronger family life. And I think it will, as it's used by moms and dads with their kids, it will also be an educational tool so that they can talk about so many things that families often are just, father will say, well, don't do this. Well, why should we not do that? What's the reason why we should be a loving person rather than gossiping, let's say? And so those kinds of things then make for, I believe, a much stronger Christian life.
Well said. Boy, I love that. That's absolutely right. And Rob and Elizabeth, I've got the impression that this isn't just for people in other parts of the world, but someone in Millerville or Calgary or whatever could download the English copy and find it very useful and could start using it today, maybe even with their kids in their home.
Yes, absolutely. And there's 2 ways you can download it off our website, Inductive Bible Study bookbybook.org. You can download it as a PDF, and then you could print that off, or you could just work off the screen. or you can also download it as an ebook. And with the ebook, there's space where you can fill in, because the whole booklet is fashioned around answering questions. And so there's space in the ebook for you to type in your answers and save it that way.
Excellent.
Actually, the ePDF, it's a PDF. It's not an ebook yet. And once we get through the process of actually finishing the New Testament,
Sure.
we'll actually create proper ebooks. We're working on that, but at the moment it's a PDF that you can download that you can actually write your text in on if you want to do it that way on your device or computer.
That's perfect. That works really great. So people can start accessing and using this material right here and joining with people around the world who will be doing the same thing. It's just marvelous, a great tool.
Yeah. And most books are formulated to take around 10 hours. So you could do that in a week if you spent 2 hours a day, or in a couple weeks. And then the whole Bible, we've designed it so you can study the whole Bible in about 2 years. You did it at 10 hours a week.
Wow. Yes. Well, that's fantastic. As we're about to wrap this up, I'm sure there are some people who are thinking, I wish I could be involved in this and help out in some way. If people are looking for ways to get involved or help out with this massive international project, who should they be contacting and how do they do that?
Well, you can contact us at info@ibsbookbybook.org and just send us an email, and we would be happy to get back in touch with you. We're really interested in just prayer support, and just if there's any volunteers who want to help with the continued production of the books. And there's even using them. I mean, if people are using them, we'd love to hear from you, and have any stories or any pictures of groups using them or people using them that we could just really, get some feedback on them.
Also, if people, I know that on this call there's no one, but possibly someone listening online.
Yep.
If anyone is interested to help edit or translate in the other languages, particularly right now with Thai, Burmese, Russian, or Malay, then we would love to hear from you as well. And people can find us on our website at Inductive Bible Study bookbybook.org, or our Facebook page, Inductive Bible Study Book by Book. We're also on Pinterest and Instagram.
Excellent. And editing and translating is no small thing, because conveying that meaning to another language can be very tricky at times. So you want people to know what they're doing. That is so great. And I've been thrilled that you guys took time out of your first day out of quarantine to talk to us about this project. What are your plans
it's
now?
Our pleasure.
Thanks
for having us.
Are you going to celebrate some way? Are you going out to buy groceries or something?
Well, Rob speaking. Well, we went for a walk this morning, which was wonderful. And we're probably after this call about to jump in our car and head to Okotoks to get some groceries and some much needed things. The fridge and the cupboard are looking pretty bare.
Yeah, we all know what you're talking about. And it is such a different experience. But I'm so glad you guys are healthy and well and safely back. And you're definitely in our prayers, and our prayer teams will be praying for you guys. We know that the Lord's help is needed even more than cash or anything else, because, boy, there are doors that don't open for anything but the Lord's work and by the Lord. So we'll keep on praying for all of this project. But it seems obvious to us that God is in this, has been for some time. And I know you probably have been, you can't do work like this without having moments of, oh my goodness, this is too much, and discouragement and kind of thing. And then, then you got your second win or your third win and keep on going. So great for you guys for your endurance and perseverance and to hang in there. And we'll keep praying that you'll see this good work completed in your lifetime.
Amen. Yeah. Thank you so much, Pastor John.
Amen.
We appreciate your prayers, and thanks for having us on your show today.
Oh,
Our
you're
honor.
welcome. All right. Well, thank you so much. And that's been Rob and Elizabeth Lumke, and we are just so grateful that we could be a part of that at Millerville Community Church. And you might be watching this show at a later time, and we hope you'll leave your comment below. And as you do so, your name will be entered into a draw for one of these free books. In the meantime, you might want to check out the website and download your copy of PDF and get access to that too. This is only one of the many exciting things that Millerville Community Church is involved in, the international work around the world in so many ways. We've got people listening to this show around the world, and it's great to celebrate that and to know that that's going on. We're just part of a greater kingdom, brothers and sisters, Lord, around the world. Well, this has been Pastor John from Millerville Community Church, Coffee with Pastor John. Encourage you to come on back and be a part of our next show tomorrow as we look at High Country Helps. We'll have Cheryl Brown on with us and interviewing her as well, what's happening right in our area, and how you can be involved and make a difference. We're a church on mission. This is Summer Mission 2020. While we've been fasting our fellowship, we are on mission to share the gospel of Jesus Christ with our friends and our neighbors, next door neighbors, and around the world. God bless you, keep you, and hope to see you again real soon someday back at church as we begin to work towards our outdoor services, and we are working hard towards that, and stay tuned for future announcements. Do go to our website, get our newsletter, sign up so that you can know when these are coming up. God bless you, keep you. Pastor John, always encouraging you to keep the faith and share it too.